Welcome to North Dakota. It's very flat this time of year, and that's because we're at the bottom of a glacial lake plain. But the real question is there any gold here? Now, back during the Ice Age, this was the bottom of Glacial Lake Agazie. It was the biggest lake in North America, huge. And at this point, I would have been over 300 feet underwater. All this flat land is clay deposits. Now, I really don't have high hopes that there's any gold in there. It takes more energy to transport gold because it's so heavy, and where clay deposits, it's very still water where that light, small particle has time to actually settle. So I'm gonna poke around here, but we might have to take a drive to the ancient lake shoreline to see if we find anything. Now, the first place I'm gonna look is the Red River. The Red River runs right down the middle of ancient glacial lake Agassiz, and it divides North Dakota from Minnesota. The problem is, everything I see is clay because that's what there is at the bottom of the glacial lake plain. I'm gonna try to find some gravel to do some prospecting, but that might be a challenge. That gets really deep really fast, and it's all clay. If I step in there, I'm gonna slip into the abyss of eternity, the abyss of eternal depth. Now right here is a bit of a gravel bar. I don't know if this is natural or man-made, but I'll take some shovels and see if there's gold in it anyway. Almost zero black sand in that, but there is some gold. Maybe that's pyrite. So there is a golden speck that's rolling around, but it's not acting like gold. It's so light, I actually think it's some pyrite. So let's do a few more pans. Just a tiny bit of black sand and a little bit of lead. I think any heavy material is getting stuck in the clay before it gets very far at all. So I think we need to get out of the lake plain to the shoreline or beyond. It was worth a shot. Pretty sure none of this gravel is deposited naturally anyway. Holy cow, I found $1. Yuck. Who says prospecting's not profitable?
We got $1, we got $1, we got $1, hey.
So I drove out of the lake plain and onto what was once the shoreline. And here is a gravel pit with a river that runs through it. And I thought this would be a good place to look, but the water level is so high, I can't see any gravel bars or anything. I'm gonna do my best to poke around and see if we can find something. The water looks really deep too. I don't know if I can cross that. Holy cow. Oh my gosh, that's gonna be over my waders. I gotta go find a shallower spot. I can potentially poke around over here, maybe. I'm just feeling around for gravel. Well, there's some gravel, but mostly mud. I'm going to just pan this out just for the sake of it. No gold, not even any black sand. I'm going to poke around and see if we can find a gravel bar, but water's just so high, I don't know that we're going to do that today. Okay, let's go to the next spot. Now here's a beautiful glacial erratic. This would have been picked up by the glaciers from who knows where, carried, and then dropped right here. Now this rock you can obviously see has gone through some metamorphism because there's a grain orientation to the crystal structure. We call that fabric. A lot of biotite mica, and there's been some fracturing that's happened here. And in those fractures, we have a mixture of quartz and feldspar filling that. Now quartz can sometimes carry gold. So it's possible that there's a few gold flecks in there. I don't see any, but it's possible. It's possible there's some gold scattered around, so let's keep looking. Look at all this pay dirt. So I'm here at another gravel pit, a little bit bigger and a little more active. But the first thing I want to show you guys is all these boulders over here. Now, I can get a pretty good idea of what the glaciers brought down by looking at some of these. This is a gorgeous piece of gneiss right here, but there's probably not gold in that. Now here's a piece of gneiss with a big pegmatite vein in here. So that tells me the rocks were fracturing and there were fluids flowing through. That's a good sign. What I'm really interested in is rocks like this. Now I believe this is what we call the greenstone. Now north of here in Minnesota are what we call the greenstone belts. It's a metamorphosed volcanic rock, and there's gold associated with greenstone because during that metamorphism you can have quartz veining and gold will come along with that quartz. I don't see any quartz in this rock, but the fact that there's greenstone here is a good sign. And there's a lot of big boulders of granite, which is cool as well. Now a lot of these piles are already classified. And in this one I see gravel and sand and clay. Let's give it a shot. So I'm just going to use this convenient puddle, pan it down. Gosh, there's almost no black sand at all around here. Just a faint trace. And no gold. Well, that was just one test. Let's take a few more. So this kind of looks like an unclassified pile, so let's test directly from there. Down here it looks like a tailings pond. At least I'm gonna make it a tailings pond. Look at all the geese. Nothing. I was looking at this cut here and I got all excited because I thought this was a layer of black sand, but it's actually just mud. This was likely the shoreline or around a river delta. During the Ice Age, there was a lot of rise and fall of the lake level of Glacial Lake Agassiz. So sometimes if it got deeper, you might have layers of mud deposit. And then if it got shallower, you'd have more gravels where that energy of the water is a little bit more. You can see below the mud here, you got sand and maybe a large size gravel. And then above the mud, you have sand and big cobbles. So there was definitely a change from here to here to here, and then above that, it's more pea gravel, smaller size again. But I think we need to test each level here. Wow, that's pretty hard. Holy cow. Nothing. I sampled each layer, and there's no gold in any of it. Not really any black sand either, so we need to move on. The water level is just so high, I don't think I'm going to be able to do any river prospecting today. The only reason I'm out here is because my wife is in a wedding, and I'm the +1, so I have a lot of free time. Plus, since my YouTube channel is monetized, I can write the trip off, and it's basically free.
You don't even know what a write-off is.
Or something like that. But it's not nearly as much fun without gold, so I'm gonna do my best, maybe try a few more gravel pits if we can. So I'm at another spot, and again, the water's just rushing too hard. If I jumped in there, I'd get carried away. However, when I look behind me, I see a gravel bank, and right up there is a layer of gravel, probably from the past river levels. So if I dig here, it's like digging in a river gravel bar. Looks like good material. No gold. On to the next spot. And there's no gravel to be seen on this river either. But what I do see is a gopher mound. Now sometimes people will take till samples and they'll find the occasional speck of gold. And if there is gold in there and the river cuts through, that's going to concentrate it. But let's just see if there's any gold here because we don't have anything better to do. And that just had a trace of black sand, no gold. Kind of what I expected. But I do have plans to do some till sampling up around Lake Vermilion in the future. Foreshadowing. But as for today, I'm kind of at a loss. I mapped out a whole bunch of places I wanted to check out while I was here, but most of them are just flooded. I can't get to them. But that's prospecting. If there was something to find everywhere, you wouldn't need to prospect. If you've ever found gold anywhere near here, let me know. So I've driven far away from the glacial lake plain, off the shoreline. There's a lot more topography and there's a lot more sandy soil. So I think I'm in glacial outwash now. This river is not too high because it's a lot higher in elevation. High enough anyway. There's not a lot of topography out here, but I found an inside bend that I can dig. Now I don't really see any cobbles or any gravels other than pea gravel, but that's the best I can do, so I'm gonna give that a try. Just all sand, all float sand with a little bit of pea gravel on top. And it stinks. Well, maybe it's full of gold. Just a trace of black sand. Basically none. And no gold. I'll give this inside bank a try. Probably the same story. Yeah, it just sinks into nothing. It's just float sand. Well, I may have just found one tiny, tiny little speck. Right there is a tiny, tiny little speck. There's my finger for scale. That's a baby. Just when I thought I wouldn't find any. So now that there's one speck, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take 10 speed pans, all from this inside bend, and see what the pan looks like. So there is an accumulation of black sand, but still not much at all. Oh, I still see our gold speck. Let's see if there's another one though. Nothing. Nothing but that one speck. So our one speck is still in there, but with 10 pans added to that, there's not one additional speck. Maybe that speck was stuck in a scratch in the pan the whole time and just popped loose. It's so tiny. I don't know, but that's just an anomaly, I guess. I'm still gonna snuffer it up. Fly poop adds up. Can't waste a single speck. So our options are few. I'm gonna try one more spot. Sure is a nice stream though. So we're at another gravel pit and you can see there's a mixture of sand and gravel, and that lower zone right there looks like an ancient riverbed. So sometimes when you're prospecting, you don't always go to where rivers are, you go to where rivers were. And it looks like there used to be a river there. So let's test for gold. There's pieces of schist and quartz, and granite, all kinds of igneous metamorphics. Well, I'm kind of at a loss. All the rivers are too high to look for gravel bars, and all the gravel pits are striking out with zeros. But that's how prospecting goes. Sometimes you don't find anything. Gold is everywhere, you wouldn't need to prospect. You just put a shovel in the ground and start mining. Did the best I could. Still a nice day, even though we didn't find anything. Thanks for coming along. Sorry I didn't find anything, but hopefully I'll find some on the next one. Come on back for that. Bye-bye.
Well, they say all good things come to an end.
What's that got to do with this show?